Hey, thanks for joining me today for episode 19 of Business in the Bedroom, a bootstrapper's guide to doing it. I'm your host, producer Jemmy, providing practical advice for the newbie entrepreneur. And today I'm going to talk to you about being a CEO on the down low. This episode is brought to you by Flintstone Media. Listen in and let's do this. Last episode, episode 18, we talked about networking and the secret sauce of getting yourself out there. Now, let's talk about how to still stay hidden behind a veil from your current jobby job. This episode is going to be all about balancing your full-time job and working your business while still working your 9 to 5. So let's start with this first bit about electronic security, because you want to stay off of their devices and Wi-Fi for your business stuff. I cannot emphasize that enough. Stay off of their devices and Wi-Fi when doing your business stuff. If that means you need to go out and get yourself your own internet hub, I have a HubSpot from T-Mobile that I've had since forever. It has been amazing to ensure that I have my own personal Wi-Fi that my cell phone or tablet or whatever is working off of. I cannot stress this enough. Do not connect your email. Do not connect your social media. Do not use the browser on their device to be on your Facebook or your Twitter account or whatever, thinking that you're like bypassing use of the social media app itself. So it's all good. It's not all good. Okay. Do not do that. And speaking of your company's browser, general rule of law, be careful not to do anything for your own business through there. Just don't do it. And also just be generally aware of your environment. You know, slowly people are moving back into the brick and mortar business offices. And so you really want to be aware of your environment. Where are the cameras in the office? You think I'm kidding? I'm not, okay? Be aware of what people around you can see on your screen, both your computer screen, even though, again, you shouldn't be using it, or your personal cell phone or tablet. Just be really aware of what eyes can be looking over your shoulders. And even from pretty far away, you'd be surprised when people want to be sneaky, how they can be and how their eyes can grow extra visions. Be very aware of what's around you. And that goes for cameras too. So even if you can't see cameras, always act like they're there, just like you would, or me, just like I know I have to always act like a microphone is a hot microphone. No matter what, even if someone tells me they're not recording yet, act like they're recording. So when you're inside those business walls, assume that you can be seen and heard at all times. Make and take phone calls regarding your side hustle business in your car, or walk away at least from your office building to make sure that no one can be passing by you that you can't see coming, right? Don't make those phone calls in the bathroom, for Christ's sake. Please don't do that. I've seen people do that. It does not end well. Do not do that. And also this next thing, it's not really in regards to electronic security like I've been talking about, but be mindful about splashing your car with a big logo of your brand or something, or having a big sticker of your logo of your brand on your own laptop and bringing that in and working off of it. Like, or at least if you do have a big logo of your brand somewhere on your stuff, like leave that stuff at home. Okay. Don't drive that car to work and park it in the parking lot. Don't bring that laptop to work. Okay. So just be very, very hyper aware of making sure that you don't let the cat out of the bag before you want it to be let out of the bag. And with that, let's also talk about social media, because until you are completely working for yourself and you are the only person who can fire you, cancel culture is real. Okay. Keep your social media private. You also should avoid accepting friends at work as friends on social media. Those two things don't always have to translate. You shouldn't feel that pressure. Just ignore it, at least for as long as you're at that job. I've had people come up to me at work and be like, I sent you a friend request on Facebook like a year ago. And I'm like, Yeah, I know. So, where are you going for lunch? Ignore, ignore, ignore. Like, there is no obligation whatsoever to accept people you work with onto your social media. And side note, there really is no obligation to do anything on social media. So, like, live your life, people, okay? But even after I've left a job, and if I then accept someone finally as a friend, I still restrict what they see, just as like an added extra, just keep your boundaries, right? I have a list in Facebook called my no post list, and I add everyone to that list that I want to have limited access to my personal Facebook profile info and posts. So then if I accept a friend request after leaving a job, I would immediately, literally the next step my finger does is adding them to that list. And for the most part, posts on my personal Facebook profile fall into two categories. They're either fully public and anybody can see them because I'm comfortable with that, usually promoting something or whatnot, or they're restricted to friends only. And further than that, I restrict it to only being seen to people who are not on my no post list. So I restrict it to my no post list. Guess what? You guys don't get to see stuff. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. So that's just an extra little life hack for Facebook privacy. Create a list, put everyone on it that you don't want to see your stuff, certain stuff. And then whenever you post a post like that, just have it restricted for that privacy setting. I have been growing my no post list for years. I don't even know how many people are on it, but it's just been growing and growing exponentially for years. But bringing this idea off of social media and into real life for a second, also watch who you tell at your job about your side hustle. That idea, as super obvious as it probably should be, didn't really occur to me to include here. But it was like, oh, obviously. I actually heard this from a girl on Clubhouse named Dominique Frazier. She goes by the handle Mrs. Change Agent, and I'll put her link in the show notes so you can go follow her on Clubhouse too. But she's super right. Like, don't get too comfortable with people at work. Everyone, just assume everyone has an agenda. Okay. So keep that side hustle to yourself, not just in social media and being careful in that way, but also in like the water cooler moments at work. Okay. And side note about Clubhouse, since we've just been talking about social media, if you're on a Clubhouse stage and you're about to drop some personal information, a story, whatnot, just scan the room first, okay? Make sure there's no one in there that you don't want to hear it. That's always a good rule of thumb. And make sure the room isn't being recorded. Just a little extra tip there from your gem. Okay, so we've been through general electronic security. We've just touched on more specifically social media. But then I want to bring it back out for a second. And let's talk about as you're doing your side hustle, as you're building your brand, and as you're going to find yourself constantly worried about the sales that you want to do, the thing that you want to add to your website, the extra stuff you want to post on social, the client you want to call back, the meeting you want to set up, right? But you still have a job. Okay. And until your side hustle can cover your paycheck, you need to cover your ass. All right. So speaking of your job, respect your job. What do I mean by that? I mean, always do an amazing job at work, okay? No matter what you're trying to do with your side hustle, try to do an amazing job at work. It's about your own bottom line at the end of the day. It's not for doing anybody else a favor, okay? This is talking about you. Do an amazing job at work. And as I said, I believe in episode 3 on building a portfolio, if I remember correctly, that's the episode that I talked about also learning as much as you can while you're there, right? Take advantage. And on that note, to extend it out on this topic point, while you're learning as much as you can while you're at work, also make yourself essential at that job. Okay. Be the only one in the office who has a certain knowledge set that's integral to operations. Become the manager or thought leader on a project. Make yourself useful across departments. Be innovative, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I remember this one job, I had taken the tasks that had originally been given as my responsibility for the position, and I had automated all these records and reporting and all these things that I was tasked with doing at this job. It was spreadsheet based. And I ended up writing tons of lines of SQL code and completely automating this across machines and stuff in such a way that they were unbelievably impressed. And they wanted to see what else I could do. So not only did the scope of my position then increase because I was duplicating those efforts in other areas and other departments now, but now I was the innovator and the thought leader for doing this kind of stuff in this company. So I was absolutely essential to keep around. And when you're ready to walk out, you say, sorry, not sorry. I'm just kidding. So yeah, make yourself essential at your job, okay, to mitigate your risk. That's what it is about at the end of the day. But why is this so important? It's so important so that if you don't take the rest of my advice and they find out about your side hustle, then maybe they still won't fire you because they kind of can't, right? So don't take a million breaks at work or take a 2-hour lunch because you needed an extra hour so you could hold a meeting for your side hustle. Don't do that stuff, okay? Learn what you can while you're at the job. Do the best you can. Make yourself essential. All of that experience, by the way, can likely end up serving you in your solo endeavor too, which is an idea that I really firmly believe. You've probably heard me speak on that before. Learning what you can where you are can serve you later in your own business. So for all those reasons, do an amazing job at your current 9 to 5, okay? And then don't burn that bridge on your way out. Leave graciously and with good notice. Why? Because there is such future gold in those referrals. You never know when an old boss will pick up the phone and say, I have someone who I met who I think would be great for your new business. You never know when that coworker you had that you helped out on a project is going to keep you in mind and invite you to a function, and that function you get to meet some. You never know, right? What the future holds. So leave graciously and with good notice. Trust me. And also on your way out, if you have taken my advice and made yourself essential, be prepared for them to try to keep you on. Be prepared for them to try to negotiate you to stay. Anticipate what they're going to say and be prepared to be able to argue and walk away and feel comfortable with it if that's where your mindset and heart is at, right? And to also keep in mind that negotiation, it doesn't necessarily have to end with you only either staying or leaving. It could end up somewhere in the middle with you perhaps working there part-time or as a contracting consultant or something like that. And that could be great padding for a more comfortable transition for you anyway. So bottom line, don't burn bridges or walk out throwing birds up behind you or whatever. It's just not necessary, right? We're all adults. So one last thing I wanted to add on to, because I actually was on, surprisingly enough, I was on Clubhouse. I was listening in on a room being put on by the Startup Club. And it was a room called Building a Service Business and Personal Brand Q&A. And I was listening in while I was preparing notes for this episode. So I thought, why don't I go up there and ask my question, which was, and I was speaking to the group, I said, would you or have you ever used a pen name to separate yourself from your brand while you're building it, and why? And the reason that I asked this was not only because it was top of mind, because I was literally preparing this episode, but also because a friend who, no worries, friend, you're remaining nameless, had just called that day to ask me my advice on that exact thing, because she was considering writing some very salacious content, like 50 Shades of Grey type stuff, right? And she wasn't sure if that would that would affect her main brand. So I thought it was top of mind, right? So I thought I'd ask that question to the group, but I also asked because, quite frankly, it's been years since I've been split between a corporate space and my side hustle. So I honestly was just curious how they would answer this framed in a more current and COVID-ish economy. And a couple of ladies in that room shared some really great thoughts that I wanted to attribute to them here. So Andrea said that your brand doesn't have to be your name, which I thought was such a great point. You can be growing a brand and it doesn't have to be under your name. Like, she's not saying use a pen name for your name, but your brand doesn't have to be your name. It was like, oh yeah, that's right. That's what I did. I grew Flintstone Media in full public view. But my full personal name wasn't really attached to it in any real obvious way for a while, right? Until I knew that I couldn't get fired for that. So that was a really great point that Andrea made. So I wanted to bring that to you. And Liz reminded the room, and so I'll share her very important reminder with you too. She reminded us all to check our contracts. Check the terms of your employment contract to see if there are rules or restrictions against you building a side hustle. But then she was like, if not, it's a free country. Like, do you? So that was great from Liz. Now, my caveat is that if your state is an at-will employment state, like my great state of Florida is, then it doesn't matter, quite frankly, what your contract says, because they can fire you, quote unquote, at will, without even giving you a reason. So just a little caveat there. But great note from Liz, and everybody should definitely check your contracts when doing all that stuff. So it was great information. I'm going to include a link to that club, the startup club, for you right in the show notes. And also be sure to join the Dreamers Become Doers Club. I heard that's also pretty awesome. I'm just saying. So at the end of the day, the question is, because this is a lot thrown at you, a lot to think about to keep yourself safe. Is this dance worth it? And I say yes, because the harsh reality is that most corporations, they don't care about you. Okay? You are a number. You fill a seat and are replaceable. Let me repeat that, because yes, it is harsh, but true. Most corporations don't care about you. You're a number, a seat filler, a replaceable body. How do I know this? Well, you may have heard me say before that I'm a 15-year recovering data analyst. Well, in the course of that career, not only did I learn all I really could learn and eventually got pretty bored with the craft, as geeky as I am about coding, I still got bored with it eventually because I wasn't learning anymore. But I also had to endure a lot working for the man. Like, so much. And now I no longer have any sexual harassment or fear of losing my job. But yes, I had been sexually harassed at jobs multiple times. I've also been courted away from a very good job by another company. And then 3 months after I got there, after courting me for like almost a year, 3 months after I got there, they shut the whole dang on department down that I had just been hired in. Like, thanks for making me leave or asking me to leave this really amazing other job. Appreciate it. I've also been told that if I don't drive through this tropical storm and make it to this computer-based job that I could just as easily do from home, that I'd get fired that day. So yeah, to me, it was worth it. And so if you're anything like me, it'll be worth it to you too. So do the dance and build your side hustle. Shh, in secret. Thanks for tuning in. I'm assuming you're listening to this because you're either running a business in your bedroom or thinking about it. Well, I want to hear from you. I'm not getting enough messages, and I really would love to hear from you guys. I get great feedback from listeners on Clubhouse, but I'd also love to hear from you if you're not on Clubhouse. So to all my listeners, please go to bizinthebedroom.com, hit the big button and record a message. I really can't wait to hear from you, and I could even include your message right here in the show. If you want to add something into something I've talked about before or argue with me about something, feel free. I just want to hear back. And I also don't want to forget to mention, because I do every episode now, that you can join Dreamers Become Doers, which is the club that is the spirit behind this show, behind everything I've done on this show, on my original show, Curve the Cube, and my business, Flintstone Media. It's about encouraging more people to get out of the cubicle like I did and turn their dream into what they do for a living. So I want you to go from being a dreamer to becoming a doer. So look up Dreamers Become Doers on Patreon, on Facebook, and yes, also, of course, on Clubhouse. And bizinthebedroom.com is also where you can go to email me, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So again, that is bizinthebedroom.com, BIZ in the bedroom.com. And remember to hit it hard. keep the lights on.